My husband thought I was just joking and didn't take it seriously at all. Later, I caught him being intimate with a new intern at his company. When I warned him again, it only infuriated him. He said I was deliberately cursing him. Heartbroken, I asked for a divorce, but he, fearing I'd split his assets, tampered with my car, trying to kill me in a deadly crash. Reborn in this life, I'll stop warning him, stop asking for a divorce. I'll just watch him slowly march to his doom, then inherit all his fortune. Mabel Chow, can you stop making a mountain out of a molehill? You know perfectly well Nora Lynn is Henry's sister. I'm only being extra nice to her for Henry's sake. There's nothing between us at all. My husband's impatient voice rang in my ears, yanking me back to my senses. And in that moment I knew I'd been reborn. Reborn to the very day I first caught him being intimate with the new intern at his company. In my past life, after finding out about their flirtation, I'd warned him again about the curse in my family. Honey, I told you on our wedding day there's a curse in my family. Once a man marries, he can't cheat, or he'll get cancer and die within 6 months. Not only did he refuse to believe me, he accused me of cursing him. Mabel Chow, do you think this is some kind of sick joke? I don't buy this nonsense for a second. Even if it were true, I haven't cheated, so what does it have to do with me? You can't keep spouting this curse just because you're scared I'll stray. Ugh, I can't talk sense into you right now. Go think about this for yourself. We'd parted on bad terms that day. Back then he hadn't actually cheated yet, but if there hadn't already been signs, why would I have bothered to warn him? My husband and I had been together since university, dating for 5 years before we married. We'd now been married for 2, and our relationship had always been great, so I'd loved him deeply. Even now, knowing he'd strayed in his heart, I hadn't wanted a divorce so easily. I'd thought if he could turn back, we could still have a good life together. To save my marriage, I'd started going to his company a lot after that. At first he'd been a little annoyed, but slowly his attitude toward me had softened, going back to how it was when we were at our closest. I'd thought I'd saved our marriage and I'd chosen to trust him again. Until one day I saw him and Nora Lynn walk out of a restaurant together on the street, then go back to her place, and they didn't come out for ages. That's when I realized the happy marriage I'd thought I'd held on to was nothing but an illusion he'd crafted for me. I called him asking where he was. He'd lied straight to my face. I'm out having a few drinks with a client. I'll be home soon. My heart was shattered, aching so badly I could barely breathe, but I didn't lose my temper. I just laughed bitterly. Is that so? Because I just saw you walk into Nora Lynn's residential complex. Instead of feeling guilty, his first reaction was to snap at me in anger. Mabel Chow. You were following me. I took a deep breath. I wasn't following you. I just happened to see you. With that, I hung up and went straight home. It wasn't long before he came back too. I spoke calmly, my voice flat. What I told you about the curse in my family, it's real. I didn't even get to finish my sentence before he cut me off, his voice seething with rage. Mabel Chow, will you just drop this? I've said it 100 times, there's nothing between Nora and me. I just dropped her home because she'd had too much to drink at the dinner and no one else was there to get her. Can you stop being so paranoid, so suspicious all the time? And stop threatening me with this stupid curse every chance you get. Watching him dig his heels in, I stared straight into his eyes, my gaze unwavering. Jasper, if you and she are really innocent, why didn't you leave right after dropping her home? You only came back after I called you. A flash of guilt crossed Jasper's face at my words. Then he snapped back, indignant. You're being ridiculous. She offered me a cup of tea to thank me. What's wrong with that? I saw the guilt in his eyes as clear as day. I let out a cold laugh, my heart breaking completely. I looked at him, calm and resolute, and said, Jasper, let's get a divorce. I loved Jasper, but I could never accept a cheating husband. I didn't know if he and Nora Lynn had crossed the line physically yet, but at this point, was it really that far off? Asking for a divorce now was me being merciful to him. Jasper, froze, stunned I'd actually said it. Then he laughed, angry and mocking. Mabel Chow, you think you can threaten me with a divorce? Don't think I'll beg you to stay just because you say the word. Fine, if you want a divorce, you get nothing. Not a single cent of the He family's wealth is yours. Get nothing? I'd never agree to that. I'm not leaving empty-handed. Everything that's mine, you owe me 1 penny less, and it's not over. The company is the He family's, yes, but don't you forget, when the company was in crisis I invested money in it too, and I busted my ass to save it. Jasper, he grew up in a single-parent family. My mother-in-law had passed away years ago and my father-in-law had never remarried. A year ago my father-in-law had died of a cerebral hemorrhage. With so many loose ends left untied, the company had fallen into crisis right after Jasper he took over, leaving him overwhelmed and at a loss. It was me who'd taken the 2 million yuan my dad gave me and invested it in the He family's company. I'd also pulled in several big collaborations for him, bringing the company back from the brink and making it thrive again. We'd reached no agreement that day and once again we parted on bad terms. But I'd never given up on the idea of divorce, so I'd started gathering evidence of his infidelity. But it wasn't long after that the brakes on my car suddenly failed. I drove off an overpass and the car was completely wrecked, so was my life. After I died, my soul didn't dissipate right away. Instead, it lingered by Jasper He's side. That's when I found out the truth. He'd tampered with my car, all to stop me from divorcing him and splitting his assets. And Jasper he and Nora Lynn had been having an affair behind my back all along. I never got to see him get cancer though because I was reborn. But rebirth is a blessing. In this life I'll stop warning him about the curse, stop asking for a divorce. I'll just watch him slowly march to his doom, then inherit all his fortune. I took a deep breath, suppressing the hatred in my heart, softening my tone, and saying something very different from what I'd said in my past life. Alright, don't be mad. I didn't know Nora Lynn was your best friend's sister, that's all. I just saw how close you were to her and had to ask. Now that I know, I won't think about it anymore. Jasper He's expression softened at my words. Good. We've been together for so many years, you know how I feel about you. My stomach turned in disgust. After what he did to me in my past life, murdering me, how could I not know how he felt about me? He might not have the heart to kill me yet in this life, but he did in the last. It's only a matter of time before he does it again. I stopped interfering in Jasper he and Nora Lynn's flirtation, letting their relationship develop at breakneck speed. And sure enough, with me out of the way, they moved even faster than they had in my past life. Jasper he would use work dinners as an excuse to eat with Nora Lynn. He'd give her expensive jewelry and designer bags for her birthday. He'd take her with him on business trips and they'd even stay in the same hotel room. Even though I stopped meddling in their relationship, I hired a private investigator to keep an eye on them. And besides catching Jasper he and Nora Lynn in all these compromising situations, the investigator also uncovered a dirty little secret between Nora Lynn and her brother, one no one knew about. It's true Nora Lynn is the sister of Jasper he's best friend Henry Lynn, but they share no blood at all. She's the daughter Henry's father's second wife brought into the family. And what's more, they're in an inappropriate relationship. The investigator took photos of Henry Lynn going into Nora Lynn's apartment countless times, only leaving the next morning. He also took photos of them passionately kissing in a car in an underground parking lot. Even worse, Henry Lynn knew all about Jasper he and Nora Lynn's affair. In fact, it was Henry who deliberately arranged for Nora to get close to Jasper. It's obvious the two of them have an agenda when it comes to Jasper he, or rather when it comes to the He family's company. If it were just Jasper they were after, I wouldn't care. But if they dare set their sights on the He family's company, they can forget it. The He family's company will be mine. Jasper he's company is a design firm. I hold a nominal position as a designer there, but I rarely go in, only joining in on projects when I'm needed. But since I'll be taking over the company sooner or later, it's only sensible to start learning the ropes now. So I began showing up at the company a lot. Jasper he thought I'd found out about him and Nora Lynn, and he was filled with guilt and annoyance. Even though he's now clearly having an affair with Nora, he won't stand for my suspicions. It makes him feel humiliated. The ultimate hypocrite. He wants to play the cheater and the saint at the same time. You've been coming to the company a lot lately. Don't tell me you still suspect me and Nora Lynn. Jasper he confronted me, putting on a show of being angry at being doubted. I feigned surprise, then explained, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I trust you and I mean it. I just met a potential client for a great design project and want to give it a shot." To keep him from guessing my real intentions, I actually did start working on landing a big design project. When he heard it was just for work, Jasper he had nothing more to say. He was more than happy to have me bringing in more business and money for the company. But the look Nora Lynn gave me every time she saw me was full of resentment. Although Nora Lynn and Jasper he's relationship was progressing well, Nora Lynn was nothing more than a secret mistress in the end, so it was only natural for her to feel envious and jealous of me. That was why she would deliberately pick on me whenever she got the chance. One day I ran into Nora Lynn when I went to the pantry to get some water. I wasn't a stranger to Nora Lynn. I had met her a few times before when I went to dinner with Henry Lynn with Jasper He, but we weren't close. Nora Lynn was very beautiful, with the look of an innocent pure girl that easily stirred men's protective instincts. Otherwise, how could she have won the heart of Jasper He, who had always been so picky about women? But women like her were never good people. Otherwise she wouldn't have become Jasper He's mistress. Pretending not to see me, Nora Lynn deliberately bumped into me, spilling coffee all over me. Then, as if she was startled, she immediately bent down to apologize. "I'm sorry, sister-in-law. I didn't do it on purpose." Her look of fear and helplessness would have made anyone who didn't know the truth think I was bullying her. How could I not see through Nora Lynn's scheme? So even though I was furious inside, I smiled generously on the surface and said nonchalantly, "It's okay, I know it was an accident. I don't blame you. I'll just go change my clothes." Upon hearing this, Nora Lynn didn't know what to say. She had intended to provoke me into losing my temper so that Jasper He would grow to dislike me, but she never expected that I wouldn't blame her at all. "What's wrong?" Jasper He walked out at the sound of the commotion. Nora Lynn's innocent eyes immediately welled up with tears. She was about to say something when I spoke first. "It's nothing. Miss Lynn accidentally bumped into me and spilled coffee on my clothes. She apologized to me, and I told her it was fine and told her not to blame herself." Since many colleagues around were watching, Nora Lynn couldn't possibly deny it. "Be more careful next time," Jasper He said to Nora Lynn with a stern face. In front of me, Jasper He would never openly stand up for Nora Lynn for fear that I might get suspicious. After all, Nora Lynn was nothing more than a plaything to him. As long as I didn't touch his interests, Jasper He would never fall out with me over another woman. "Yes, Mr. He," Nora Lynn replied, her heart aching bitterly because Jasper He hadn't defended her. In the afternoon, however, Jasper He said he had a dinner engagement and wouldn't be coming home for dinner, then left to meet his little lover. So when I left the company after work and ran into Nora Lynn, she looked at me with a triumphant and provocative expression. She was just a young girl who had just graduated from university, and she had no idea how to hide her emotions. But to let their relationship develop smoothly, I naturally pretended not to notice anything. Anyway, now that Jasper He had actually cheated on me, it would only be a month or two before he developed cancer. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Jasper He started feeling stomach discomfort, loss of appetite and indigestion. Of course, I didn't tell him to go to the hospital for a checkup. Instead, I secretly made all kinds of stomach-nourishing food for him to ease his stomach pain, making him unable to notice that something was wrong with his stomach at all. Even if Jasper He found out early and got treatment, it wouldn't cure him anyway because this wasn't an ordinary cancer but a cursed one. Once it developed, there would be no chance of a cure. And it would claim his life within 6 months. The only reason I didn't let him find out early was that I didn't want him to be prepared. Although Nora Lynn knew that her relationship with Jasper He couldn't be known to me, she still couldn't help but seek my attention. At noon when I left the company, I saw Jasper He and Nora Lynn, who had just come back from outside in the parking lot. Suddenly, Nora Lynn let out a cry of surprise and fell straight into Jasper He's arms. Jasper He instinctively caught her, but when he saw me, he quickly pushed her away. As if she was afraid that I might misunderstand, Nora Lynn hurried to explain to me in a panic. "Sister-in-law, don't get me wrong. There's nothing between Mr. He and me. I just twisted my ankle and Mr. He caught me to stop me from falling." She said she didn't want me to misunderstand, but deep down she hoped I would, so that I would make a scene and Jasper He would hate me. I smiled slightly and said, "Look what you're saying, as if I'm such a jealous person. I saw it. You twisted your ankle by accident and Mr. He caught you. I would have thought he was rude if he hadn't caught you." Seeing that I wasn't angered, Nora Lynn felt a little disappointed. But seeing that I hadn't found out about their betrayal, she began to laugh at how stupid I was. But I didn't care. Jasper He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that I wasn't suspicious, then explained to me, "I went out to handle some business just now and happened to meet Nora Lynn, so I brought her back to the company with me." "All right," I replied with a smile, looking as if I believed him. Although Jasper He had always kept a distance from Nora Lynn in the company to prevent the employees from finding out anything unusual, Nora Lynn wanted to make me angry, so she repeatedly acted as if she was on intimate terms with Jasper He. As a result, the company employees noticed something was wrong and started gossiping about the relationship between Nora Lynn and Jasper He. Then when Nora Lynn saw me, she started sniffling and explaining to me again, "Sister-in-law, there have been rumors in the company recently that there's something going on between Mr. He and me. Please don't believe them. There's really nothing between Mr. He and me. Mr. He just takes extra care of me because of my brother. If you mind, I'll go talk to Mr. He right now and quit the company." I comforted her, "Issue, don't think too much about it. I know Jasper takes extra care of you because of your brother. Don't worry, I'll talk to Jasper right away and tell him to tell the employees to behave themselves, to prevent everyone from guessing further and ruining your reputation." Nora Lynn immediately looked as if she was suffering, feeling frustrated inside. She couldn't understand why I trusted Jasper He so much and wasn't angry at all. I actually don't mind, I just don't want you to misunderstand me," Nora Lynn said, putting on a considerate look. Of course she didn't mind. Otherwise she wouldn't have deliberately acted in a way that made everyone misunderstand. She just wanted me to believe the rumors. Later I found Jasper He and told him about the company employees misunderstanding his relationship with Nora Lynn. "Jasper, I believe you and Nora Lynn are innocent, but people who don't know the truth will inevitably guess things because you two are close. It's not good for your reputation or Nora Lynn's, and then it will be hard for you to explain to Henry Lynn. So you need to be more careful." Jasper He felt guilty when he heard that there were rumors about him and Nora Lynn in the company, and he breathed a sigh of relief when I said I believed him. Regarding the rumors about him and Nora Lynn in the company, Jasper He didn't suspect Nora Lynn at all, thinking it was just because they might have been too close and made others misunderstand. He would have to be more careful in the future. Jasper He took my hand, looking relieved at being trusted by me. "Mabel, thank you for believing me. I'll definitely be more careful from now on. It's just that Henry wants Nora Lynn to learn something from me, so I always call her over to teach her things." Although I was disgusted by Jasper He's touch, I endured it and let him touch me to prevent him from finding out anything. Anyway, he would be a dead man soon enough. At noon the next day, Henry Lynn came to Jasper He's company and said in front of all the employees, "Jasper, my sister is interning with you. She hasn't caused you any trouble, has she? If she does anything wrong, scold her directly. Don't hold back because of me." When the company employees heard this, they realized they had misunderstood the relationship between Nora Lynn and Jasper He. It turned out that Mr. He treated Nora Lynn differently just because she was the younger sister of his friend. From then on, no one gossiped anymore. This was a show that Jasper He had deliberately asked Henry Lynn to put on. But Jasper He didn't know that Henry Lynn already knew about his relationship with Nora Lynn, and he felt guilty for hiding it from Henry Lynn. So when Henry Lynn asked him for favors a few times during this period, Jasper He didn't refuse. But they were all small favors, so Jasper He didn't care. "Nora is a quick learner and hasn't caused any trouble," Jasper He said. "That's good," Henry Lynn said, looking relieved. "By the way, I'm here for something. Can we have lunch together if you're free at noon?" "Sure, I'm free," Jasper He replied. They went to a restaurant near the company for lunch. Henry Lynn looked hesitant to speak. Seeing this, Jasper He said directly, "Henry, just tell me what's on your mind. With our relationship, do you need to be embarrassed?" Upon hearing this, Henry Lynn first sighed and said helplessly, "Jasper, you've helped me several times these days. To be honest, I really feel embarrassed to ask for another favor now, but I don't know who else to turn to besides you. Here's the thing. I've had my eye on a project recently and I'm a bit short on investment money. So I want to bite the bullet and ask if you can lend me some. I'll pay you back as soon as the funds come in." "How much do you need?" Jasper He asked. $1 million. Henry Lynn said. "Sure, I'll transfer it to you later." Although the He family's company wasn't a big enterprise, $1 million wasn't a lot of money for Jasper He, so he agreed readily. Seeing that Jasper He had agreed, Henry Lynn breathed a sigh of relief and immediately promised, "Jasper, thank you so much. Don't worry, I'll pay you back as soon as possible." I had long guessed that Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn had ulterior motives in getting close to Jasper He, so I wasn't surprised when the private detective sent me a recording of their conversation. In the afternoon, Jasper He didn't come to the company and went to Nora Lynn's apartment with her. I pretended to know nothing and let them be together. Nora Lynn was extremely grateful to Jasper He for lending money to Henry Lynn, so she lured him back to her apartment. The two gave in to their passion, lost in the moment of intense desire. That night, Jasper he returned home worn out completely. At first, every time Jasper he came back after being with Nora Lynn outside, he would feel guilty and bring me all kinds of gifts. As time went by, that guilt gradually faded away. It was my trust in him that emboldened him more and more. Little did he know I was just waiting for him to die. By the time Jasper he realized there was something seriously wrong with his stomach, it was already in the advanced stage. So I no longer cared if he knew about his stomach problem and took him straight to the hospital for a checkup. The result came back: advanced gastric cancer. Jasper he was struck dumb as if by a thunderbolt. How could he have gotten gastric cancer? Because Jasper he had never taken to heart the curse I told him about at our wedding, that in my family, men who cheated after marriage would get cancer and die within 6 months. So at this moment, Jasper he didn't connect the two things at all. He had probably even forgotten I ever said that. Yes, Jasper he had completely forgotten those words. Even if he did remember, he would probably just think it was a mere coincidence. After all, that so-called curse sounded so absurd, utterly ridiculous to anyone who heard it. In fact, when my parents first told me about this curse, I thought it was totally ridiculous too. But my grandfather and my uncle-in-law both died of cancer after cheating on their wives. One had liver cancer, the other pancreatic cancer. My father believed in this curse from the start. After he married my mother, they had always had a loving relationship and he never once thought about cheating. Because the curse wasn't entirely unbreakable, all one had to do was get a divorce before cheating. Honey, don't lose heart. We'll cooperate with the treatment actively. I comforted Jasper but cold laughter echoed in my heart. Ordinarily, advanced gastric cancer can be treated with chemotherapy, radiotherapy, targeted drugs and other methods to kill cancer cells, inhibit their growth and spread, thus controlling the progression of the disease. Yes, only control, not a cure. Even with active treatment, the patient can only live a few more years at most and death is still inevitable. But Jasper he's gastric cancer was different from ordinary cases. It was cursed. No matter how hard he tried to treat it, he would never get better. So of course I would fully support his treatment. After all, it would only take a month or two and it wouldn't cost much money anyway. What's the point of cooperating with the treatment actively? It'll only let me live a few more years at most, won't it? Jasper he lashed out at me in anger, but I didn't care at all. In the end, even though Jasper he could hardly accept the fact that he had gastric cancer, he was deathly afraid of dying. Even if it only meant a few more years of life, he submitted to chemotherapy without hesitation. It's just that his mood was terrible all the time. He didn't just snap at me, even the doctors and nurses weren't spared his wrath. Once Jasper he started chemotherapy, he naturally couldn't manage the company anymore, so control of the company fell into my hands. I called a meeting with all department managers, informed them of Jasper he's advanced gastric cancer, and announced that I would take charge of all company affairs from then on. Since the company was a sole proprietorship of the He family with no other shareholders, it was easy to take control without any obstacles. Besides, Jasper he had advanced gastric cancer. Even with active treatment, he could only live a few more years at most. The company would end up in my hands eventually anyway. The first thing I did after taking control of the company was to fire Nora Lynn. Nora Lynn had no idea about Jasper he's advanced gastric cancer, so as soon as I fired her, she contacted him immediately. But Jasper he was being tortured by illness right then. How could he have any time for Nora Lynn? So Nora Lynn couldn't get in touch with Jasper he at all. Furious, Nora Lynn came to me directly and confessed her relationship with Jasper he. Mabel Chow, I'll tell you the truth. Jasper and I have been together in private for a long time, so you can't fire me. Heh. I let out a cold laugh, not the slightest trace of anger on my face. I've known for a long time that you and Jasper he have been having an affair. I saw right through all the little tricks you played on me. I just pretended not to know. I even know that you and Henry Lynn are not real siblings, and that you have an improper relationship with him. I also know that Henry Lynn deliberately arranged for you to get close to Jasper he naturally to use him as a fool. You. Nora Lynn stared at me in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief. She never thought I would know all these things. A wave of fear spread from the bottom of her heart. If I knew, did that mean Jasper he knew too? Was that why he wasn't answering her calls? Although she had approached Jasper he with an ulterior motive, she had truly fallen for him. She had wanted to push me aside and take my place as his wife. You're talking nonsense. This is slander. Nora Lynn hurried to deny it. But to me it was nothing more than a death throw. You know very well whether I'm talking nonsense or slandering you. What's done by night appears by day. I smiled faintly. Also, there's something else I need to tell you. Jasper, he has advanced gastric cancer. Even with active treatment he can only live a few more years at most. He has no time or energy left for people like you. What? Nora Lynn was struck by shock once again at the news. Jasper, he had advanced gastric cancer? I ignored Nora Lynn, stood up and left, heading to the hospital. At the same time I sent the evidence I had collected to Henry Lynn's wife. Because Jasper, he and Henry Lynn were close friends, I had added Henry Lynn's wife on WeChat a long time ago, though we rarely chatted. I had never intended to hide Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn's affair from his wife. It just wasn't the right time before. And now the time had come. As soon as Henry Lynn's wife saw the messages I sent her on WeChat, she called me immediately. With solid photos and evidence in hand, she didn't doubt me at all and only asked me how I found out about it. I said, Jasper, he cheated on me with Nora Lynn. I found out about your husband and her while investigating evidence of their affair, so I sent a copy to you. He thanked me profusely. Let Henry Lynn's wife deal with Nora Lynn. Now it was time for me to tell Jasper he about all this. In just a few days, Jasper he's face had become gaunt and haggard. It wasn't just the physical torture of the illness. The mental torment was even worse. After all, the thought that even with active treatment he could only live a few more years made him utterly miserable. Nora Lynn came to see me today and confessed everything, said you two have been together for a long time. I said it flatly, no emotion in my voice. Jasper he was first stunned, then filled with unease. He hated Nora Lynn to the core. Hadn't he told her not to say anything to me? Why wouldn't she listen? Jasper he didn't deny it at all. Instead he hastened to apologize and beg for my forgiveness. Wife, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist temptation and made a mistake. Please forgive me this once, okay? I've known about it for a long time. I smiled softly, not the slightest hint of anger on my face. After all, I had already felt all the anger there was to feel. There was nothing left to be angry about now. Only revenge in progress. Besides, Jasper he was about to pay the price for his actions. So my heart was calm, utterly calm. Jasper he stared at me in shock, his eyes wide open. Well, what? You knew all along. I smiled softly and said, the first time I noticed the ambiguous way you and Nora Lynn acted around each other, I knew you would cheat on me sooner or later. So I hired a private detective to investigate you too. At these words, Jasper he flew into a rage and shouted at me, what? You actually hired a private detective to spy on me? So what if I cheated? How many rich men don't have a few women on the side? As long as I still come home and don't ask for a divorce, that's all that matters. Now that everything was out in the open, Jasper he had become brazen and unashamed. I didn't answer him but asked a question instead. Guess what else I found out during the investigation? After I said that, I didn't actually wait for Jasper he to guess. I just took out the information about Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn and handed it to him. On the first page of the information was a photo of Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn in a passionate kiss, which immediately caught Jasper he's attention. In an instant an even more intense rage filled his chest. How could Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn do such a thing to him? What did Nora Lynn take him for? Jasper he could forgive himself for cheating on me, but he couldn't stand Nora Lynn cheating on him. Even if she was only his mistress. Truly a case of allowing the magistrate to burn down houses, but forbidding the common people to light a lamp. I kept twisting the knife in Jasper he's heart. Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn are not biological siblings. Nora Lynn is the daughter his stepmother brought into the family. And Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn have an improper relationship. What's more, Henry Lynn deliberately arranged for Nora Lynn to get close to you. He just wanted to use you as his cash cow and a fool. No, this isn't true. This isn't true. Jasper he couldn't accept it for a moment. His good brother, whom he had always trusted unconditionally, and his mistress had conspired together to betray and trick him. Pfft. Overwhelmed by the extreme shock and anger, Jasper he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. I didn't leave. I just waited for Jasper he to wake up again. However, when Jasper he opened his eyes again, his gaze towards me had changed, first shock, then unbridled anger. Then he lunged straight at me as if he wanted to kill me. Fortunately, Jasper he was extremely weak at this moment and he didn't even touch the hem of my clothes. Mabel Chow, why are you still alive? You were supposed to be. Jasper he blurted out the words, but he suddenly stopped halfway, his eyes filled with wariness and doubt as he stared at me. And the moment I heard his words I immediately realized, Jasper he had been reborn too. But I didn't feel the slightest panic. On the contrary, I thought it was a good thing that Jasper he had been reborn. It would let him know clearly why I was taking revenge on him. Otherwise it would be no fun at all if I just told him and he couldn't remember. Jasper he stared at me with a venomous gaze, gritting his teeth and demanding, "Did you have something to do with my gastric cancer?" I evaded his question and shot back, "Why do you ask that?" "Because you said there's a curse in your family. Once a man marries into it he can't cheat, or he'll get cancer and die within 6 months. Jasper he ground out the words through clenched teeth. I let out a soft chuckle, speaking with amused interest. "Yes, I did say that. But you didn't believe me, so you cheated anyway. Why didn't you warn me this time?" Jasper he roared at me. He had been reborn, yet he felt not an ounce of guilt for killing me in our past life. Instead he blamed me for not warning him again in this one. "Even if I had warned you, would you have listened? Oh, you would have just said I was cursing you. Even if I'd asked for a divorce you would have refused. Instead, to stop me from getting a share of the property, you tampered with the brakes of my car, leaving me to die in a fiery crash." I laughed mockingly, my eyes filled with hatred and murderous intent as I looked at him. Jasper he's body stiffened abruptly, shock flashing across his face. He never thought I'd find out he was the one who did it. In our past life he truly hadn't believed that so-called curse. He'd ignored my countless warnings and cheated anyway. Until he really got cancer, a cancer that no treatment could cure, and in the end he died within 6 months. At first he'd thought it was just a coincidence. Then he'd opened his eyes again to find himself alive, while I'd escaped the accident he'd planned, and yet he still had cancer. That's when he'd guessed I'd been reborn too. And in this life I'd never reminded him of the curse. I'd even watched him cheat and get cancer doing nothing. Having cheated and gotten cancer twice, he could no longer deny the truth of the curse. But he was unwilling to accept it. Why hadn't he been sent back earlier? If he had, he would have divorced me before he ever cheated. Suddenly, Jasper he looked at me with eager desperation, his voice thick with pleading. "Mabel Chow, if this is a curse from your family, you must have a way to break it, right? If you can fix this, I'll agree to a divorce and split the property with you 50-50. As long as he could live, he no longer cared about giving me half the property. I let out a cold laugh. "Not only is this curse unbreakable, but even if it weren't, why would I break it for you? Do you really think I'm magnanimous enough to forget that you killed me in our past life? Besides, once you're dead, all your property will be mine. Why would I divorce you and settle for just half?" "You." Jasper he was left speechless with rage. "You're fine now, aren't you?" Jasper he refused to believe the curse was unbreakable, convinced I was deliberately refusing to save him. I retorted, "Just because I'm fine now, does that erase all the harm you've done? Unless we get another chance to live this life all over again, you're destined to suffer my revenge in this one. It's even better you were reborn, this way you'll know exactly why you've ended up like this. Otherwise, my revenge wouldn't be half as sweet." "You." Jasper he glared at me, his eyes bloodshot with fury, wishing he could kill me where I stood. But at that moment there was nothing he could do. Since Jasper he had been reborn, I stayed by his side to keep a close eye on him, making sure he couldn't do anything behind my back while I was gone. Jasper he desperately tried to seek help, but with me watching his every move he never got the chance. When the doctor came in, Jasper he begged him for help, screaming that I was trying to kill him. The doctor paid no heed to his words. Gastric cancer was not something anyone could inflict on another person after all. He simply thought Jasper he was suffering from a mental breakdown and gave him a sedative injection. In the next 2 days, Jasper he's cancer cells spread rapidly, leading to multiple organ failure. He no longer had the strength to throw tantrums. Before long he died, consumed by agony and unwillingness. Jasper he had no parents or children. As his wife, I became the sole heir to all his assets. With my revenge finally complete, my heart was at peace at last. Henry Lynn's wife told me she'd gotten a divorce. As for Henry Lynn and Nora Lynn, she'd made their affair known to everyone. Now both of them were disgraced, their reputations in tatters. Nora Lynn and her mother had even been thrown out of the Lynn family home. After Jasper's death, I told my parents what had happened, though I left out the part about being reborn, not wanting to worry them unnecessarily. When they heard of Jasper's fate, they only said he'd gotten what he deserved. Because of the curse, I never remarried. But I wanted a child of my own, not to be alone for the rest of my life. So I went to a sperm bank abroad and chose 2 high-quality sperm samples. Fortunately, I gave birth to 2 sons. That way they would never be bound by the curse. Yes, the curse in my family is passed down only to the daughters, not the sons. Though the curse punishes those who betray you, I still hope my children can marry and have families normally when they grow up.